Well, hey, beautiful. Welcome back to Beauty Beyond Betrayal podcast. Guess who I've got in the hot seat with me again today?
Hubby.
The hubby's back.
Yes, I'm back.
I told you that we would have a part two.
It took a while for her to get me in this hot seat again, but I'm here.
Yes, it burned his fanny a little bit last time.
Got to cool it off a little while.
So, we are finishing up part two of the top questions that couples ask after betrayal trauma. We wanted to bring it raw and real to you. And this is part two. We're going to dive in right away. And we've got some really great stuff that we also want to share with you about our marriage redesign program. So, make sure your hubby's with you. Okay, make sure you are listening to this together, whether you're listening on the podcast or you're watching us on YouTube. You need to be doing this together, don't they?
They do.
Yeah, because it's supposed to spark some really good conversation between the two of you so that it can help you heal. All right, so we're going to go on to question 5 that came in from couples when we did a poll. And this question was, how do I deal with triggers and trauma that keep coming up? Well, first off, let me say this. You're not broken because you're triggered and experiencing trauma after betrayal. You're broken because we are broken individuals because we live in a fallen world. So we're just going to speak truth here. We're a biblical podcast as well. So we come from God's word. We are broken people. Now, if you're experiencing betrayal trauma, you're experiencing a deeper brokenness, but it doesn't mean you're broken beyond repair. That's what I want you to hear. Those triggers that are being experienced by you right now are your body's way of trying to make sense of the pain. And I like to say it this way, honey. And a lot of people, when I say it, they're like, wow, I've never heard it said that way. I look at triggers as an opportunity that God is putting in your path to take you deeper into your healing.
Mm-hmm.
Give you a little bit of a different perspective.
Oh, you throwing me a curveball.
Yeah, throw you a curveball, huh? So, it is an actual invitation from God, because what triggers do is they pull you back into the past of discovery day. They pull you back into the past of the betrayal, and they hurt. But what they are triggers are like an indicator light that show you that there's still things that need to be healed. Now, honey, let me ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
So you work on vehicles.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
The simple things.
The simple things. Okay. So when the indicator lights go on the vehicle, what is it telling you?
Something's wrong.
Majorly.
Major. Well, it could be something simple, but still it's something going on that you need to kind of research, find out what's the problem,
Okay.
and fix it.
All right.
Plain and simple.
All right. And what happens if we don't address it?
Well, it's not going to be fixed for one thing. Still going to be a problem. And until you do, you're going to continue having those same issues.
And with the vehicle, exactly. The same thing happens inside of your body. If you are not addressing the triggers as an invitation from God to take you into deeper healing, you're not going to make sense of the pain. You're not going to heal from it. Now, here's the good news. Good news. With the right tools, the right support, and trauma-informed care, you can move through those triggers. And remember that Jesus cares about your pain, and so do we. So, honey, let's talk about like when we were moving through our own story of betrayal, and I was triggered after we reconciled, and you would notice that I was triggered. Did you get angry with me? Did you tell me to get over it? Did you tell me I was too dramatic? What did you do?
No, I knew not to go there because this wasn't your fault at the beginning. It was something I brought on, and once we got back together, I knew that, you know, there were still going to be problems along the way.
Yep.
And, when they arose, whatever you needed for me to do to reassure you that that past was behind us.
Yeah.
Um, I could sense things, especially at the beginning,
How did
because,
you sense it? Like what?
well, I could see an expression over your face. Sometimes I would see a tear come down your face
Yeah.
that there were still healing needing to be taking place.
Yeah.
And, when I would see that, it just upset me
Yeah.
tremendously
Yeah.
because I was finally over that past that was just something wrong,
Yeah.
something I shouldn't have done at the beginning. But,
Right.
once that was put behind us, I could just feel and could tell the quietness come over you.
Yeah.
Um, and like he told me later that when we would be traveling down the roads, that certain places
Yeah.
would come back to you because you had heard over Texas and all that, me and her, the other person was going to meet such and such a place.
Right.
And at times we can't help but go by those places. And, yes, we try now to detour those spots. And that would be something that, you know, whoever's done wrong needs to work that out. And, it's just takes time. And as of today,
Yeah.
things do come up
They
still
do. They do.
and not as often, but, anytime it does, I ask my wife, I said, what do you want me to do? What can I
Right.
do?
Right.
Just to reassure her.
And sometimes when I would get triggered, I noticed that you would step into the pain with me.
Hmm.
It would be like, honey, what do you need in this moment?
Right.
Do you need to talk? Do you need me to hold you? Like you wanted me to direct you and give you something that
Hmm.
would help you navigate what I was experiencing.
He
And
did.
I will say that because he did that, because he stepped into my pain instead of shoving it down and telling me to get over it and all those things, it helped me heal through and it helped diminish a lot of those triggers. And for those of you who are the unfaithful, there's a tool that I use in this with a lot of our couples, and it's called the support model. And it is a very effective tool when you are having a spouse that is highly triggered. Below in the show notes, I've referenced this podcast. And if you would like to have the downloadable that has the support model on it, you can email us at info@lisalimehouse.com, or you can go below in the show notes. The email address is right there. Click on it and you can ask for that support model. It is a really effective tool that gives you something tangible to help your spouse with when they are highly triggered. And it helps you to step into their pain in a very effective way. Now, honey, on the flip side,
Okay.
I want to kind of talk about the fact about unfaithfuls having triggers. Did you also get triggered when you were recovering from the affair?
Oh yeah. A lot of little things pops up in my mind.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna say again at the beginning, you know, once things were still fresh and the feelings were still there
Yeah,
for that person
yeah,
because I just pretty much quit cold turkey
right.
with her
Yeah,
once you told me you wanted a divorce. And, it took a while, I didn't try to get back in touch with her because you kept looking at my phone and
right.
just, asking questions.
Yeah,
And I was tired of lying to you,
yeah,
and I wasn't going to do it anymore.
yeah,
But, situations would come up that would just kind of bring back a memory,
Yeah.
and it, I would make sure it went away quick.
Yeah.
I didn't dwell on it, wishing things would have been different
You
with this
didn't
person.
you didn't
I
ruminate on it.
no, I didn't reminisce of it at all, because I knew how the devil worked
Yeah.
with that.
Right.
Being a child of God, that the devil got a hold of me and just you know brought sin into my life, and I knew that the only way I could get through that was by sharing it with you,
Yes. Yeah.
um, praying to God when that time would hit me.
Right.
Um, I would stop the truck if I was in my vehicle, wherever I was at. I would just stop, start praying,
Yeah.
and it helped me. But m most of all, it helped me when I would share with her,
Yeah. Yeah.
and because you got to be honest through the recovery of what we went through,
Yeah.
and
And
we
it's
got
not
through it.
and it is. It's not easy sharing
No,
that. You know,
no.
when your spouse is sharing with you that they are triggered by thoughts of either a sexual addiction and or an affair, that can be triggering to you as well. And it's one of those things where you meet each other in the middle. And you have to recognize that at that moment, there needs to be safe space created for both of you to be raw, to be real, to be open and honest, so you both can move forward in healing. You're not sharing this to hurt one another. It's not to, pour salt into a wound. You're sharing it to be honest and transparent, which is crucial to rebuild trust inside this relationship. So when he would come to me and he would share these things with me, I was recognizing he's seeking to rebuild trust. He's being honest with me, and I had to welcome that. So when dealing with triggers and trauma that keep coming up, remember, do it honestly, be very transparent, and create safe spaces for both of you to be able to share and to use the right tools, support, and trauma-informed care so you can move through them. All right. Next question on the agenda, honey, is what do healthy, God-honoring boundaries look like? Well, let me first say this. Boundaries are not punishment. A lot of spouses can feel that way at first because it feels like a lot of don'ts. Do not do this, do not do this, stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this. And it kind of can get daunting and heavy, can it not?
Oh yeah. Well, I knew, that's how it was going to be.
Yeah.
You know,
You
I
saw my
wasn't,
list, it was probably like, whoa.
yes, but I knew I had to answer to each one of them,
Right.
and however long it took for those boundaries to be there,
Yeah.
I was willing to go through it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and over a period of months, they would start to kind of
Change a little
change
bit. I
some.
call them fluid. They're living and active,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
with the situation that I put you through, I knew it wasn't going to be a 6 month to a year healing.
Right.
I knew it was going to take
Years. Yeah.
more time, and I was willing to wait on whatever
Yeah.
boundary that was, in front of me.
Yeah.
And
And respect it. And so they're
mhm.
not punishment, therefore protection. Remember that safety, security, and stability has been obliterated after betrayal. So we have to recreate that, and we recreate that through healthy, God-honoring boundaries that bring protection to the individual and the relationship. They're how we create safety for healing, not control, and not for revenge. That's not what these are for. So when a spouse is truly repentant, they actually welcome the boundaries like Britt did. He welcomed my boundaries and respected those because he wanted to rebuild trust. Now, some of the boundaries, honey, that we actually had in the beginning were, full access to your phone, all of your passcodes to your phone, your emails, social media, you had to get off of that. We did 360 tracker apps because I just really felt like if I knew where you were, I felt safer that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just, you know, no minimizing my feelings, no blame shifting, no blaming me for anything, no saying, oh, it didn't happen that way to kind of, gaslight and those kind of things.
Right.
All of that was put in place and the boundaries were respected. Now I know that when we reconciled, there came a time months into our reconciliation, and I always tell those that I work with that this can happen when you're healing and you're moving towards reconciliation. Old patterns of behavior can creep back in because remember, if you've had an affair or you've been sexually addicted for a long period of time, these behaviors are engrossed in you. Like you've been living this way for a while, and he had been living a certain way for 2.5 years. So some of
My
these,
way, was something, if I wanted it, I got it.
yeah,
It wasn't nobody I had to answer to because I was in that state of mind of, oh, I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. She wasn't around.
yeah,
She didn't know what I was doing. Uh, I
yeah,
wasn't being honest with her,
right.
when I would see her. Um, so I had my, you know, way of life that, was pleasing to me, satisfying.
Hmm.
Somebody met my needs. Um, and, you know, I liked it,
Yeah, and
you
at
know.
that period of time,
Yeah,
that developed some behavior that
right.
wasn't
Well, that wasn't me,
healthy. It wasn't
right,
healthy, right?
right.
So
Mm,
when we reconciled, there was a moment in time, months in, that little bit of that behavior crept back in, and I remember going, "Well, got there's a boundary here. We're not going here. Here's the consequence." And at first
well,
it's like the knee-jerk reaction is not to like it, but you respected it, and we were able to come out of it quicker.
I tried not to put us in that situation,
Yeah, yeah,
making you think that there was something
right.
where there wasn't,
Yeah,
and when that would come up, that we would really have to work through it.
yeah,
And I think we worked through a lot of problems like that,
yeah,
we didn't get mad or at each other or,
right,
you know, not resolve the problem
right. I think the
because sometimes
boundaries
you could
helped
just turn
us.
away from it and,
Yeah,
you know, deal with it later, but you never do,
right,
you
right.
know.
Yeah.
And
And the boundaries in place with consequences helps
mhm,
to do that. And I know we went even further as we reconciled, and we also created boundaries for our marriage because we knew not only did we have to safeguard each other, right? I had to
mhm,
be safeguarded. You had boundaries to keep you from going back into that sinful
mhm,
behavior.
mhm,
Now we had to do that for the marriage, not being around the opposite sex alone,
right. And
right?
see, that's what triggered everything that brought my affair on was, where I worked at, a lot of, you know, females and uh, just kind of got drawn into it. And, there was a lot of them
Yeah.
that liked the flirt,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, I just kind of got sucked into it and, you know, I just went with it.
Yeah.
And
And so the boundaries are important
mm,
inside of the relationship to safeguard you. Think of boundaries as a guardrail. That's
right.
literally what they are. They're a fence, not to keep everything good out, but to make sure that you're preserving and safeguarding what is precious. So that's why boundaries are so vitally important. Okay, so the next question that came in was, or actually the question was, does the unfaithful spouse actually experience detox when they have had an affair? Oh, wow. What a great question. And it's one of those where a lot of you who are betrayed spouses, this one's a hard one, and you probably are like, I don't like this, Lisa, and that's okay. You don't have to like it. But here's the truth of the matter. When they have been involved with someone for a period of time, they will experience a detox. Why is that? Well, just like a drug, an affair can create a powerful neurological, emotional, and chemical dependency, especially if it was tied to sexual excitement, escapism, like wants, desires, those kind of things. And when the affair ends, the unfaithful spouse often experiences a withdrawal-like phase. So talk about that a little bit, honey. What was that like for you in the beginning when you were kind of detoxing from that? Because I knew about it. I could see it on you, right? And I would even talk to you and go, well, where's your mind? And you were honest.
Right. No, like I said before, it's just a process that I had to go through.
Yeah,
I could have went through it not saying nothing to you, but I knew that wasn't the right thing to do.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it was hard to get over this person
yeah,
because there was strong feelings,
yeah.
and it took several months. It wasn't long as I thought it was going to take
I
because I think
remember,
we dove in
yeah, we did.
wanting to work on us,
Yeah,
but at times, you know, the thoughts would go the other direction. But
yeah,
it was just a matter of time.
yeah.
Uh,
And it's what you did with that time.
mhm.
They say time can take care of everything, but it's actually what you do with that time. You were proactive.
Right. You
What?
got to have somebody you can talk to and, you know,
Yeah,
to listen.
yeah,
Um, not your wife.
right.
Yeah, you can tell her some things, but somebody that you can turn to, when you need another male,
Yeah,
you know, person to talk to.
an accountability
Right.
partner.
You need and let them
Yeah,
be, they need to be a good godly man, you
yes,
know, um,
yes,
no friends or anything like that because they're always going to be on your side.
yeah,
Um, just a pastor or somebody in the church
yeah,
would be good to turn to,
yeah,
because I had several at our church today that I remember, you know, they were there. They say you
yeah,
call, you text, because they had been through the same thing. And
yeah,
just being able to talk to somebody like that really helped me, you know,
yeah.
and the more I turned to them, the easier it was to put that
And some of these men were
behind me.
within you and I, we actually did a group. And some of those men were there in that
That's
group,
who they were,
and they
because
allowed you that space to
right.
heal.
Oh yeah. And just knowing they were there, you know, that was just encouraging for me,
Yeah,
where I didn't feel lost and could have easily done something stupid.
yeah,
But I wanted to save our marriage, and
yeah. And a
whatever it
detox can
took.
be a strong pull, and it's important to have a safety net in place like he had, because if he hadn't, it would have been easy to be pulled back into that.
Hmm.
Because when you're dealing with any kind of strong neurological, chemical, emotional reaction that way, it can pull you back time and time again. The enemy of your soul will use anything to get you back into that deep-rooted sexual sin.
Oh yeah.
And so having that accountability, being honest with your spouse, having safe space to talk this out is crucial. All right. Honey, we've got one more. And this one I consider a bonus question because for the women
Mhm.
who are the betrayed spouses, this can be a hard one to say out loud. So I'm going to say it for you, ladies. Will he ever get the affair person out of his mind and fully recommit to me? Now, that's a hard question, and we hear you. And yes, it's possible, but it takes certain things to have this happen. And so some of that is you had to stop the affair and they had to have no more contact. Like you had to call it quits and that was
Right.
it.
And you wanted me to call her that day
D-Day?
right in front of you,
Right.
tell her it was over. And that
And
was
that day
that was
you
tough.
and you couldn't that
Really,
day.
it
Yeah.
was tough. Uh, yeah, she put me on the spot, but you know, I wanted to save us. And
Oh, you're talking about later. Yeah, D-Day, I asked you to do that and you didn't do it, but you're talking about reconciliation.
right when we were
Yes, we were in the
yeah, apartment,
apartment. Yes,
that
yes.
time,
And you did
and oh yeah,
on
it
telephone.
was not an easy thing to do because somebody that I had drawn close to,
Right.
that I was hurting her,
Yeah,
you know, and she had hurt my wife, and but it was God made it so easy for me,
yeah.
you know.
You knew what was right.
Right. And we sat there on the couch, dialed the number. Thank God she was home and she
Yeah,
answered.
yeah,
And you heard what I said.
yeah,
I told her it was over with, that we were going to work on our marriage, save our
yeah.
marriage. And, after it was all said and done, it was like,
That was
it was
it.
all just lifted off of me. And
Yeah,
um, I knew there was going to be a long road ahead to, to work on us. But it's how bad you want it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
because we've had what 11 years
yeah,
in
yeah.
our marriage, and you know, day one, I knew that we were going to last till the Lord was ready to take us home, and yeah, we hit a bump in the road, but
We
you
had a
know,
crevice.
yeah, it was a big sinkhole, pothole. But,
Yes, we did. Totally,
so
totally.
we got through it, hon, and
Yeah, we did.
uh,
And it
God's help
took
is it's you got to have the Lord
100%.
involved. You can't do it without him.
That's
Um,
right.
and fella, if it's something that you've done and you in my shoes, um, you got to get right with God first.
Yeah,
Ask him to forgive you for what you done, and then tell your wife.
yeah,
You know, because until you fess up to everyone that was involved,
yeah,
it's not gonna be right. And, you know, just talking about now, I get emotional because, what I put myself through, what I put her through,
yeah,
my family, you know, um, it, it hurt them all because, you know, we were committed to each other day one,
yeah,
and I broke that vow. And, I just didn't want that to continue,
yeah,
knowing that it was just being devastating to her.
yeah,
And just you got to turn to God.
yeah.
You got to turn to God, fellas.
So in order to get the affair person out of your mind and fully recommit to your wife, there's no contact, the affair's over, you're fully transparent, and it's a daily recommitment to
Hmm.
your wife and to your marriage. And
Hmm.
I know that God renews our minds and he can restore loyalty. but it takes healing, not hiding. It takes repentance and not excuses. And honey,
Right.
what from the heart, like truly from your heart, that question of will he ever get the affair person out of his mind and truly recommit to his wife? What can you say about that?
Well, it took a long time.
Right?
I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Um, but as of today, I don't think of her every day.
right,
Something happened where, like you say, there's a trigger or something,
right, right.
and that thought may pop into my mind, but
It's brief.
it's you're right, and it's not something that I wanted to linger, and I think about it more and more, but it's very rare.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not like it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago,
yeah,
um, because that's behind me.
right.
I'm moving forward
And
with
how would you say you fully recommitted to me? That you came back to me and gave it your all.
because I know I couldn't live without you. You know, God brought us together,
Yeah,
and that New Year's night that we spent together when we first met, I knew you were God sent
yeah,
because I had been through two other marriages, and I was cheated on my first marriage after 20 years.
yeah,
And that was tough having two young kids.
yeah,
But the Lord got me through it. And the second marriage was just like a rebound,
yeah,
I'm saying, because it lasted 7 years and it was just,
yeah,
there wasn't nothing there.
yeah,
But, when I met you that night, because I had prayed that year, waiting on my divorce to get final. And when it was, and I seen you on Christian Mingle.
yeah.
That's where I met her, Christian
That's how
Mingle.
we met, folks.
And when I met you that night at the Waffle House,
Oh, yes, yes,
it
yes.
was a dream come true for me. It was just I know God answered my prayer, and my
Yeah,
family was praying for me too,
yeah,
that He would send me a godly woman, and y'all can see, how godly she is, and I didn't want to lose her, and you know,
so if you've got a man who
mhm,
is in your shoes, right?
mhm,
And he's wanting
fresh
to
through it, or
fresh through it and wanting to really save his marriage, but he's wanting to recommit to his wife. He's wanting to win her back. What would you tell him some things to do to win her back?
we've said quite a few of those things already. It's just you got to make her feel first in your life, you know, like maybe day one, like me. She needs to feel wanted again,
Important.
desired, do what she asks,
Yeah,
you know, put that pride aside because that's the problem that I had. My pride kind of got in the way at times, but, you know, do what she asks, you know, because you will be rewarded by
yeah,
winning her back, you know, and I'm just saying it's not hard,
yeah.
you know,
If you want it.
if you want it bad enough,
Yeah,
you know, whatever it takes,
yeah,
do it.
yeah,
And there's always somebody out there that can lead you through it and get on your knees,
yeah.
pray every morning like I do. I pray for us daily
Yes, he does.
because,
Yes, he does.
the devil's out there and the way this world is now,
Yeah,
you know, it's so easy to fall back.
yeah,
So easy. And so keep God in your prayers.
And can you truly have a greater love on the other side of betrayal
Oh, you can.
and a
Well,
better marriage beyond betrayal?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
because we're proof of it.
yeah, we are.
And that's why,
Yeah.
what we went through, God opened this door
Yes, you did.
for us to help couples,
Yes, he sure
you
did.
know, um, with your percentage of saving marriages.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable. It's almost 100%
Yeah, it's all God.
of saving
99% success
marriages,
rate. Yeah. Yeah.
and I want to step on board with her.
Yeah.
I'm ready to quit my 40-hour job. And I am, y'all.
Yes, he is. Next
I
month.
am. Next month.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna step right in here with her and you know, make it feel kind of easier for guys, I guess,
Yeah,
who
for sure.
are wanting to save their marriage and get on this podcast
Mm-hmm.
or coaching with Lisa. I want to be here alongside of my wife to kind of make it easier for the men,
Yeah.
not feel like they being beat on,
Yeah.
with just her coaching.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
want to I want to step in here and
Now, I don't
I've got
beat
a
on you
lot.
guys. I do not beat
No.
on you. But he's
Well,
basically saying through therapy, he experienced being beat on through
well,
therapy.
yeah, at the
That was tough.
beginning it was
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
very
tough.
tough because
Yeah.
I didn't want to take the blame,
Right, right,
and
right.
it was all my fault.
Yeah.
Just what
Yeah.
I did was my fault.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage you fellas that you know how we've become closer
Yeah.
uh, in many ways, and you will love it.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
will. So, if you are asking any of these questions from part one and part two that we've done, and you want to be able to work through these things, we want to personally invite you to join us inside of our marriage redesign program. Like Britt said, we have a 99% success rate with our program. It's a biblically based, trauma informed healing journey that gives couples a proven step-by-step path to restoration. Now, whether you're still in crisis mode or you're already committed to healing, this program meets you exactly where you are and it helps you move forward together. We've walked this journey ourselves. We've helped so many others do the same with truth, accountability, and hope. So if you're ready to stop spinning in all kinds of chaos and confusion, and you're ready to start building your marriage with God's help, with proven neurological, tactical, practical tools, scientifically based and backed by God's word, then below in the show notes, click on that link, grab yourself a consult with us so that we can talk to you about where you currently are, where you desire to be, and talk to you about a proven roadmap designed for you that can not just heal your marriage, but actually give you one that's better beyond betrayal. There is truly beauty beyond betrayal, and you can have a marriage that is redesigned. You just have to take that bold, brave step
yes,
to
you do.
finally decide that you're going to do it. So remember this, we're here for you. All right?
Don't put it off,
Right.
fella. If you're the one that's kind of thinking it's going to get easier and better without resolving any problems,
Yeah.
it won't. You might be going down the road that I was headed towards.
Yeah.
So we're here to help.
Yep.
It's a long journey.
Yeah.
It's tough, but
Worth it.
it's very much worth it. We
Yeah.
got through it, and look at us today. Now we're wanting to reach out and help others
And snatch all of these marriages out of
yes.
Satan's hand so that we can see 1 million marriages restored for the glory of God after betrayal. So remember, this doesn't have to be the end of your story. It can be the beginning of something brand new. So we'll see you next time. Be blessed.